Sir, the possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Hello, this is No, and I believe that if you take cranberries and stew them like applesauce, they taste much more like prunes than rhubarb does. Welcome to the After Effects Kickstart podcast.
Thanks for joining us today on the podcast. This is the fourth and final interview of this series, and we are really ending it with a big bang. Today, Joey and I are lucky enough to chat with the amazingly smart, amazingly talented, and very human Lynn Fritz. I had met Lynn on email and on social media before this, but I had never gotten a chance to chat with her quote-unquote in person before this, and I have to say that I was really impressed with her. She's just an amazing person and has a ton of wisdom in her head at such a young age. I think part of what makes Lynn so special is her confidence. In particular, she figured out at a young age that self-promotion is very important and not something to avoid or be embarrassed by. Even if you think your work is, to quote Lynn, shit, you should really be getting it out there as much as possible. Otherwise, you don't really exist. Another quite different aspect of her story that comes up in this interview is actually a real cautionary tale. Working really hard and putting a lot of pressure on yourself, especially combined with not sleeping a lot, can really do some serious damage to your health. I don't want to give too much away, but Lynn nearly drove herself to the brink by working too hard, and she kind of had to figure out a smarter approach to finding success. I think this is really important and something all of you should pay attention to. So let's jump on in and meet Lynn Fritz. Hello, Lynn. For the record, will you tell us your name and tell us where you grew up?
My name is Lynn Fritz, and I grew up in a tiny city in the northern parts of Sweden called Sundsvall.
Sundsvall? Did I get that right?
Yes. It's quite a small city.
Right on. I'm sure it's beautiful. So yeah, you're like mad, and yes.
I guess I can tell it's probably beautiful now, but when I was there, I was just like, take me out of here. Yeah.
I think that's pretty common to people's hometowns in general. I don't know. That's the way I feel about my hometown too, on Long Island, which I'm sure is way tackier than your hometown.
Long Island. I mean, I'm saying that in a good way. Like that sounds good compared to where I grew up, really, but.
Well, I'm sure there were more strip malls in Long Island. But in any case, segueing in, when did you realize that you wanted to work in motion design and animation, and how long has that been a part of your life?
Okay, well, I studied Hyper Island, and I kind of got into Hyper Island because my teacher back in high school told me that Hyper Island was that seemed like a good school for me because I was struggling with school. And the only lessons I was interested in was basically design and photography. And I applied to Hyper Island and I got in, but I applied for the design course. And I don't know if I didn't get in or if they just decided to not have that course that year because they do that sometimes for some reasons. And I got into motion graphics instead. And I did not know what motion graphics was whatsoever. And the summer before I started, so I started when I was 19, and I got an email saying, congrats, you got into Hyper Island and the motion graphics course. And then it said some texts about it's something like some stuff that it's good to know before you start. And it basically said, you should probably open After Effects before you start. And I didn't have After Effects. I only had some crappy version of Illustrator on my computer. So I never opened After Effects until I got to Hyper Island, really.
Wow. And will you tell our students sort of what Hyper Island is like, since it's kind of an untraditional school? Will you just run them through what the program's like there?
Oh, my God. I always every time someone asks me this, I always struggle to answer the question because it is such a weird place. So basically, Hyper is, kind of a learning environment. And the course I went to was just a year, which also meant that it was 3 months internship in that year. So, I mean, I think we spent 8 months or something in school. And they don't have any courses or lessons or teachers or, pretty much anything. So basically what you do is that you get divided into groups and you get different tasks, and then you do that, and that's pretty much it. And I don't know, like, it's such a hard time. I always have a hard time explaining this. It's kind of a cult as well.
Wow.
And like, it's just basically, if I'm gonna explain this in an easy way, it's basically just 40 kids playing around with After Effects or Illustrator for a year, and people are just up all night, living on those bars and Coca-Cola, and that's pretty much what we do for a year. And we're just trying to learn as much as we can because we love it and we're so into it. And you just learn from tutorials and from each other. And that's just pretty much it.
Wow.
Just playing around for a year, and then you go out into the world and you have an internship, basically.
That's pretty, I mean, but really great students come out of there, but so they're definitely doing something right, I imagine.
Yeah, they're using, because the good thing for me when I started was that I was such a struggle kid in school, and every time my teachers were like, oh, you have this test on Friday, I was just like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Like, you can't tell me what to do, basically. I hate that. And then I came to Hyper, and they were telling us, like, oh, this is what you should do. And, I don't care if you do it or not, but, it's just going to hurt you, not me. And when they said that to us, I was just like, oh my God, shit, I so want to do this now, because they are telling me that I don't have to, but now I want to do this.
Yeah, so you found just the right place because they gave you the level of independence that you always kind of wanted, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it started, you started realizing that you were growing up and you actually needed to work to get some money and all of that. So, I was still just 19. I didn't know that much. And my plan was to go to Hyper for a year and then go back to my parents again. But yeah, that didn't really
didn't work out quite like that. Well, no. I want to follow up on that, but I know you just said that you I think that you learned through tutorials. Is that how you learned After Effects while you were there? Was just like watching a bunch of tutorials and the other students?
Yes. So basically what we did was that in my class, I think we were 45 people or something, and half the class was, super newbies that they didn't know what After Effects was, and the other half they kind of knew / they were professionals. So it was a bunch of different people with different skills there, and you kind of learn from each other. And even though I didn't know anything about After Effects, I knew stuff about Illustrator, so I could teach someone about Illustrator and they could teach me about After Effects. But mainly, and then obviously we watched a lot of Andrew Kramer tutorials, like you do. And also, just like sitting up all night doing it because you're interested in it and you want to learn. So I think it just comes down to what you want to do and if you want to spend time on it and you're interested in it. Yep.
Your passion will definitely drive you. I mean, especially when you're 19, I think, too.
Yeah, I think so. I wish I had that still, but...
So did you find that, you learned After Effects well under those circumstances? Or now that you're kind of, and this is jumping ahead a little bit, but now that you're more in the professional world and dealing with, awesome animators all the time, I imagine, do you feel like you kind of learned it the right way? Or were you still catching up when you got into the creative field?
I mean, I kind of still want to study more about animation and do some online courses or something. Maybe I should look into School of Motion, actually.
Maybe you should, Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, because to be honest, I feel like I have obviously you always do, I think, but I still have so much more to learn, and Hyper didn't really give me anything when it came to, learning After Effects, really.
Right.
It was more just 8 months, but you're also partying and you're hanging out with friends and you're doing other things at Hyper, not just After Effects. Hyper is more about developing yourself and, those fancy words, whatever, but it's more about getting to know yourself, working in groups, in teams, and more about, idea generation and feedback and stuff like that. And so they didn't really, I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about Hyper Island. That was the best experience of my life. But they didn't teach me anything about animation. So I'm still a bit I kind of want to study for real.
Yeah, I guess that kind of open environment school, that might be one of the issues, I guess. Yeah. But so you
Yeah.
learned design even before. That was like one of the things that you were really into as you were growing up. Do you have any, I don't know if you have any thoughts. A lot of our students, are also just learning kind of design and just getting into design at the same time. So I'm curious if you have any like advice about design, since that's sort of illustration and design is such a primary thing for you.
Yeah. I mean, I studied graphic design, which taught me a lot about design. But then, then you're just studying like the basics of graphic design. And I didn't really have my own style or anything back then. It was more just doing what the teacher told us to do or ripping off other people's work just to learn Illustrator, for example. But then, after I graduated and after I graduated Hyper Island, I started actually, getting into my own style.
Yes.
And that was also just in my spare time, because that's the only time you have when you can actually develop your own style and your own stuff and everything.
That's true.
So for me, it's always about everything I do in my spare time, I think.
You actually just raised something that I'm interested in, which is sort of this idea of ripping other people off to learn. I mean, ripping, like when you're a student, I don't know, ripping people off is kind of like a harsh term or whatever, but, where do you stand on that? Do you feel like students, like it's okay for students to kind of borrow a style to kind of learn a thing from, something that's more established to sort of find their own voice? Or do you think that's kind of like a bad thing?
I mean, I don't really know. Like personally, I ripped off so many, like so much work when I studied high school when I was like 15, 16. But that was work that I never showed anyone ever. That was, like they never left my computer. I don't even have it today, but that was only because I wanted to learn Illustrator and how to like handle the software. So that was easier than having to come up with my own ideas and my own style whilst learning Illustrator, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So it was just easier to just like take someone else's work and try to,
Just kind of imitate
like
it and use that.
rip it off, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that. I mean, I guess, so just going back to After Effects for a second, I understand that like you didn't feel like you fully learned it or whatever, but was there a point at which, and this could be like also in your professional career, not necessarily at school, but where something really clicked and it started to make more sense? And is there a chance that you could walk us through that moment if there is something like that?
Yeah. So basically I've been moving around a lot and working with extremely talented people. And they've been teaching me so much, which I'm forever grateful for. But it's just, some people, they can't teach you everything. And before I moved to London, I was working. So first of all, I graduated Hyper and I went to Amsterdam and I had an internship. And I worked with some people there. And then I freelanced for a bit over in Amsterdam. And after that, I moved to Stockholm. And in Stockholm, I was working in-house as a motion designer, and which was perfect for me because I didn't know that much about After Effects at all. And what they mainly wanted me to do was to, animate PowerPoint presentations, basically, which is obviously sounds horrible. Yes. And, like it sounded horrible and it wasn't fun, but I learned a lot by doing it. And I was also the only motion designer there, so no one else knew After Effects. So I had to figure everything out myself. So just by doing that, I learned a lot, the basics about After Effects. But I was still super mega bored by animating PowerPoints all day. So I just went home after work and animated my own stuff and just tried to, get into After Effects even more. And I started posting things to Dribble. And I started posting a lot of things to Dribble. And the funny thing is that I still have everything on my Dribble account that I did, like 4 years ago. And it literally looks like shit. But I just decided to keep everything so I can, days I just hate my work and I don't know what I'm doing or anything. I just go back on my Dribble to look at the work I produced 4 years ago and I just feel happy again.
That's a great tale, yes.
So I basically just started posting things to Dribble just, to more for myself, I think, to see that I was actually doing something. And instead of just leaving it on my hard drive, I was actually posting it somewhere. And all of a sudden, I got contacted by Fraser Davidson. And he, he just emailed me and said that he liked my work and he was wondering how I was set up. And by reading this email, I thought it was a joke. I honestly thought it was a joke, and it took me about 3 days to answer him. And he was super cool in his email, being all like, "Hey, I like your work. How are you doing? What are you doing?" basically. And I just replied being, "Thanks, man." Kind of like trying to be cool.
Right.
But on the inside, I was just screaming. I even like talked to my friend, being like, "Can you please help me email him?" And yeah, I just answered him and said that I was full-time in Stockholm, and he wanted to hire me, which was cool.
And we should say, just for our students, that Fraser Davidson is the guy who started Cub Studio, which is a really awesome animation studio. They do a lot of character work, and they're based in London. So getting an email from Fraser Davidson is like, I don't know, it's like getting an email from God or something. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something too, because this is what you just said is super important, Lynn, and this has come up in so many podcasts, in different School of Motion courses, on our main podcast. I've heard this now from dozens and dozens of people, that this is a very common way of getting work now, is you're doing your personal projects to get better, and you put them on Dribbble, or you put them on Twitter or Tumblr or your own site, whatever you do. And just by having an online presence and promoting yourself a little bit, getting over that imposter syndrome, even though you think your work is shit, as Lynn called it. Even though you think your work isn't good, you're getting yourself out there. And the truth is, you're not the best judge of whether your work is good or not. And that's, wow, I didn't know that that's how Fraser found you. That's amazing, Lynn.
That's totally amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I love that too. I was going to say the same thing as Joey. Like, I just love that you put your work out there, even if you didn't necessarily think that it was the best, and that you were confident about it, and that you promoted yourself anyway at that state. That's so huge, and I hope our listeners really understand that point.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I've always been like mega scared. I'm still super scared of posting things, and like I'm freaking out every time before I post something, and I'm getting like super anxious and like, is this really worth posting? Which is such a bad, there's such a bad thing to think. And I thought about it as well now at Blend when Tuna Bora talked about that, and she was really like, like I'm using Instagram as my, digital sketchbook or whatever, just posting things every single day, which is an amazing thing to do. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece, but it can just be like, like a tiny, tiny sketch. And I think it's also important to think that you're doing it for yourself mainly and not for everyone else.
Yes. And she talked about that a bunch in her talk too, just about the difference sort of between process-oriented work and like work that you're doing for a client, where there's like a definite end result in mind that you're trying to reach, and how like that's so much harder than if you're just doing something for the fun of it, which I thought was really inspirational too. So tell us, like, so you started working at Cub Studio then, and so what's that like? You're young, and sort of this amazing thing has kind of fallen in your lap. I mean, you worked for it and you deserved it, but what's it like then getting to that spot?
I mean, first of all, I was mega scared when I got contacted by Fraser, mainly because he wanted to hire me as a freelancer, and they just started Cub Studio, him and his best friend Ben. And I don't think they could hire people because it had something to do with the company, and so they said that they wanted to hire me as a freelancer. And I got so sad when they said that, because I was just honest with them, and I said that I have a full-time position and I'm only 20, and it feels, I would be pretty stupid to give that up. And I was just being honest with him, and he said that he totally understood that, and I didn't feel like I had the experience to freelance in London, and I just turned it down basically.
Oh wow!
And I was really sad because I felt like this could actually change a lot in my life, but yeah, I turned it down, and after a few weeks, he contacted me again, and he was like, "Okay, we just fixed like a limited company or something, I think it's called
right,
that.
Like a limited liability corporation or something."
Yeah, exactly. And we can now hire you. So do you want to come over to London and meet with us, basically?
Wow.
And I was just like, oh my God. And I traveled over, and we basically had a chat about work for 10 minutes, and then we got drunk, and then they hired me.
That's how it's done in London.
So yeah, that's how I ended up at Cub. And
That's amazing.
okay, so what was the question? Now I'm gonna answer the actual question.
Oh, just like, what was it like at such a young age to work for such a top place? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest, like, I don't know, like, I had so much fun at Cub. And when I started, it was just me, Fraser, and Ben, which was also like, I was just working alone with Fraser, basically, which was amazing because no one else was there, and he could just spend all of his time on me and not having to teach anyone else or anything. So that was obviously amazing. And, like, he's such a wizard when it comes to After Effects. So he taught me a lot of stuff, definitely. And that was really nice and good for me because I never studied it. So I got the opportunity to kind of study it with him in a way.
Let me ask you something, Lynn, because Fraser, and by the way, for anyone listening, Fraser is one of the artists that we interviewed for our character animation course. And he's kind of a unicorn, I think, in that he's a really good designer. He's an amazing illustrator. I think he designs logos for sports teams and stuff in his spare time.
Yeah.
And he's also an incredible animator who can do character animation. So I'm just curious, what were some of the things that he taught you that where you probably had your mind cracked open? Whoa, I didn't even know you could do that. Like, do you remember any of those little tricks?
It wasn't much about tricks, actually. He's very like into, particular, for example, in After Effects, which is it a plugin?
Particular, yeah, it's a particle plugin.
Yeah.
Notoriously complicated.
I mean, I still don't know how to do that. He taught me so many times, and I was just like, this is too hard for me. Because I am very, when it comes to After Effects, like, I know a lot about it, but I'm more about the simple stuff in it. And he told me a lot of cool shit and stuff like that, but I just forgot all about it because I never do those kinds of effects myself. So, because I didn't continue doing this after Cub, I just totally forgot about it. But he taught me a good thing about camera movements and how because he's so famous for his like camera pullouts and rotations and stuff like that. So he told me a lot of, a few good things about that, which I'm probably never going to forget about. So that's good. But then once again, it just comes down to you like spending time within the software. And as much as he could teach me like a lot of things, but if I didn't spend time myself doing it, I would just forget about it. So that's kind of what I did with a few things he taught me, actually, which is a bit bad, but
it's like learning a language a little bit. Like, if you don't use it, you kind of lose it a little.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I felt, but I mean, still, just spending almost 2 years at Cub with him was like super valuable, of course.
Was there anything?
And it's also, it's really hard to just like pin down everything you learn, but I did learn a lot from him, definitely.
I'm sure. And was there anything, just not even necessarily After Effects, but just like in the professional world? Like, most of our students, they've either never worked professionally or they've worked maybe in one career, but they might be considering switching. And I don't know if there's any, wisdom that you've learned in the professional world that wasn't clear to you before, but we'd be certainly interested to hear that too.
Yeah, because I mean, in Stockholm, I was in such a big corporation. So I was working within a huge PR company. So I was literally no one in the company, and I didn't deal with clients or meetings or anything. I was just sitting on my chair 8 hours a day animating PowerPoints. So when I moved to London, it was just me, Fraser, and Ben, and obviously I was very much involved in everything. So we usually went to meetings, all of us, which was really fun that they, brought me on to the meetings and stuff. And then also dealing with clients, emailing with clients, being on phone calls with clients, and setting up like treatments for clients and stuff like that. I've never done that before. And, that's super valuable, especially if you're a freelancer and you have your own company. Just presenting good things for your clients, like, storyboards and style frames and everything. So that was one thing that I brought from them. Like that's super valuable. Yeah, it also surprised me, obviously, because I've never done it before. So that was a really good thing, actually.
That's cool. I love that you were at that place in Stockholm, the agency or whatever it was, and you kind of like used that to learn a lot more about After Effects and kind of put in your 10,000 hours or whatever you want to say. But then somehow you were able to get out of there quickly, because that sounds like one of those jobs where, you know, if you weren't as smart as you were and kind of had the right mindset, you could have just got stuck there for years and really kind of stagnated there. You know what I mean? It sounds like you just did such the right thing by getting out of there and getting a little bit lucky too that, you know, Cub Studios hired you and basically created their company so that they could hire you. But still, I mean, I think that's an amazing story, and I'm you know, proud of you that you got out of that dead end job. So good for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you know, I know that you're one of the founders of Poon Animation, and that I'd love you to tell us about that project and like what it's for and like what's happening with it. But also just, you know, as a young woman getting into the industry, I'm just wondering if you have any advice for other women that might be taking this class, and if you could talk a little bit around that topic, you know, of sort of how you've faced the industry as a woman, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, when I worked, like back at Hyper, we were 40 people and it was 10 girls. And today, out from those 10 girls, I'm the only one working with animation. The rest just went on to like project management, and I don't know, like it feels like that's where all the girls end up for some reason. And then in Stockholm, I mean, it was such a big company, so it was tons of girls. But then when I moved over to London, and I didn't have any friends, so I reached out to B. Grandinetti, and I asked if she wanted to grab a beer with me. I didn't know her at all, you know, like I've just saw her work somewhere. And we decided to meet up, and we, you know, like we became best friends. And she was also living with another girl from Hyper, because they also went to Hyper,
right?
The year after me, I think. And so yeah, it was B and the other girl, Hedvig, and we just, you know, like we just became best friends, and we had so much in common, and we were in the same industry, and one of the things we had in common was just, you know, being a girl in the industry. And we all worked with studios where it was just one or two girls, and I worked at Cub and it was just me. So it was very easy to talk about that. And this was the first time kind of in my life that I actually thought about it. Because especially in Sweden, it's fairly good when it comes to that. Like it's often 50-50 in companies. I don't know about, you know, animation studios, but when it comes to like big companies, it's almost always 50-50. So I never experienced before. And, you know, like we just started talking about stuff, and we decided to do something for the industry. And we came up with Poon Animation.
Great name, by the way.
I'm not sure who came. I think Hedvig came up with a name. And we were just like, yes, let's do it. That's amazing. And we had so many people that we met since we started Poon Animation, and it's, you know, like so many of them being like, you know what Punani stands for, don't you? And you're like, really? You know? But yeah, we decided to start Poon Animation, which started as like a little collective of us three wanting to do something for the industry. And we didn't necessarily know what to do. So we started out, you know, like we started up a Twitter account and an Instagram account, and we were like, what are we going to do with the accounts, you know? And then we met up like twice a week after work just to talk about this. And we started a Vimeo channel for, you know, only women's work. And we started featuring videos there. But we kind of realized quickly that no one really had time for it. Or we were just like, you know, lazy and running to the pub all night. I don't know. And it kind of died. So after that, we decided to actually do something where other, you know, ladies could interact. So we decided to start up a Facebook channel, or a Facebook group. Maybe it's called group, yeah. And the group, we just started a group, started inviting a bunch of ladies and within like the design and animation industry, and they started inviting people, and people started posting about, we said in the group that we want this to be, like a good environment. You can post work, you can post, you want feedback, or you want to know something, or you want to move to London, or, just like a good group for women. And today we're almost 900 people in the group.
Wow. Woo! That's awesome.
Which is crazy. It just escalated, and it's now it's getting to that point where it's kind of, I'm not gonna say it's too big. I mean, I hope it gets bigger, but it's really big. You can't really interact with anyone anymore, and you can't comment on everything and keep up with everything. But yeah, I mean, it's a great group, definitely. And I got an email I'm getting a lot of emails from clients saying that they want me to post in Pen Animation.
Huh. Interesting.
Which is also very interesting. So the other day I posted a job that I couldn't take on in Pen Animation, and I got an email back from the guy who asked me to post it, and he was just like, thank you so much. We had about 25 girls contacting us about this job. And I felt like a proud mama, really.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's turning into a really, really good thing, definitely. And at Blend, for example, we had a little Pen Animation meetup, which was cool.
That's super cool to meet in real life. So should the female students who are in this class who are listening to this podcast, should they join the Pen Animation Facebook group?
Oh, definitely.
Nice.
Big time. I think it's actually, I'm going to see what the link is. I think it's just Facebook/Pen Animation, I think.
Yeah, we'll put a link on this page where this lives as well, so they can just click right on it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say something to all the students listening too, because obviously throughout this course, like a big part of what Noel's been trying to teach you is not just how to use After Effects, but how to engage with the motion design industry. And it's a pretty amazing industry in that this is very, very common. You join a Facebook group to kind of, meet like-minded artists. Maybe, it's Punanimation, or, there's different animation groups for, Spanish-speaking artists and stuff like that. And it's a very common way to get freelance work and even find out about full-time jobs. And people share information like that. The fact that Lynn couldn't take a job and referred her client, to the Punanimation, letting someone else work with her client that she's cultivated the relationship with, that's amazing. And it's something that I'd really stress everyone should be doing if you really want to, embed yourself in MoGraph. You got to get out there and you got to find these little groups and network and stuff like that. So it's awesome. I'm glad you told that story, Lynn, because I think that's super important for people who don't yet have their foot in the door to know that that's a good way to do it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm also, funny that you said that, I'm also part of a Spanish-speaking animation group, and I have no idea what they're saying. I don't even know why I'm in the group.
When you said that, I was like, wow, you speak like 5 different languages or something, but then I realized, no, just maybe 3.
I only speak 2, but yeah.
Well, we started talking about self-promotion a little bit earlier, but just to come back to that, so like one of the first times that you came on my radar was because of the piece that you made with B after the first blend called Canadian Frames. And I was wondering if you could also talk about like creating work to promote yourself, and even at that, like that's I think at a higher level than what you did probably for Dribble, though I really haven't seen that. But like I was wondering if you could talk about like how you guys made that and kind of the importance of promoting yourself when you're starting out.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, like when I started out, because I was working in the company in Stockholm, and I couldn't I didn't want to share anything I did there. So I only posted my own stuff on Dribble, and just the Dribble is like, I guess everyone knows kind of what Dribble is, but if, that now I'm mainly using Instagram, but back then I was only using Dribble, which is like a great website to post your own work, and just posted my own stuff to Dribble all the time. And I was very sure of just like posting my own stuff. And that's how I branded myself. And that's, then when I got contacted by people being like, I really like your work, they liked the work I was producing, and they only liked my, personal stuff because I didn't really post anything else. Mm-hmm. So, already there, I was just like, it's so important. Even if you think it's shit or whatever, it's always good to post stuff and be like, so people know that you exist in a way. Because back at, I think I've told so many people this story, but when I went to Hyper, and a lot of people in my class, they were really like, I'm not going to post anything because I suck. And I thought about that in the beginning as well. I was really like, I don't have anything to post. And then I started comparing myself to other people that's been in the industry for 10 years. Like, you can't do that. And then my manager told us that you can be, the best damn animator or designer in the world, but if you're just hiding out in your mom's basement, no one's gonna find you. And when he said that, I was just like, holy shit. I need to post my own stuff, even though I'm not the best animator or designer, I still can do stuff. So when I realized that, I just started posting my own stuff, and that's how I get my work these days, just mainly from my personal work. So going back to Canadian Frames, when we went to Canada for the first blend, we decided to take time off work, and I think we took about 2 weeks off work. And we traveled to Canada and went to blend, which was amazing. And then we decided to turn it into, a project. So we actually traveled around Vancouver. We rented a car. We had amazing brunches and just experienced stuff there. And then we turned it into a film where it was kind of like a podcast in a way. We just talked about the trip, and we animated. So basically we animated things that we did, and then we, made the voiceover after that. And just about the, Canadian Frames, that was just a fun project we did when we were on vacation, and it turned into a great thing. And a lot of people still refer to it, and they're like, we really loved it,
Yeah. Do people still ask you to imitate a seagull?
They do all the time. Oh my God. I never thought that would be such a big thing. We went to a beach one day in Vancouver, me and B, and I was just like, okay, B, look away. And I did the seagull sound, and she just turned around. She was like, are you fucking kidding me? Sorry. But I was just like, no. And I don't know how I found out that I could do that, but I've done it for, years and years and years.
So I love the pairing of you and B together. I mean, I just think there's this kind of wonderful sense of humor that you both have that comes out, and you're just silly, and I don't know, that's just such a fun piece, and obviously there's so much talent in there too. So I really love that.
Oh,
so thanks for telling us the story of that.
I have a quick question. I want to ask you something, Lynn, because you're making me think, which I like.
Uh-oh.
So, all right. So, you were very brave, I guess, in putting your work out there and kind of discovering that by doing personal work and putting it out there, you get opportunities. But your work is also very, very, very good. And I'm curious if you noticed your work get better once you started working. I mean, I'm assuming the answer is yes, but I guess what I'm getting at is it kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you put work out that you're not super proud of, but hey, it's good enough to get hired somewhere. And then once you're there, you feel all this pressure. So under the pressure cooker, you get a lot better. And then your personal work's better, even though you still think it's shit. And so then you get another opportunity based on that. Have you found that to be the case? Is that really how have you gotten better? Is it from the pressure that you put yourself under?
Mainly, yes. I put myself under a lot of pressure all the time, and sometimes it's too much pressure. And I've been down. Because I listened to your Animalators the other day, and you're also talking about the the anxiety of producing work all the time, and I've been there myself, where I've been feeling like shit. I ended up in the hospital because I was stressed. And, I actually got an inflammation in my chest, and my heart started skipping beats because I was stressed and anxious.
Oh my God.
Which, I was just like, how is this even possible? And I asked the doctors, I was like, no, this can't be it. This can't be because of work. And they were really like, it's probably because of work.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What was going on that stressed you out that much?
So basically what was going on was that I just felt like I was under a lot of pressure, and this was back at Cub. It wasn't really about Cub, it was more about me and what I wanted to do. And, you see your friends and you see that they're so good, and you obviously comparing yourself to everyone else, not just your friends. And I started feeling the pressure, and I wanted to become better. And also the whole thing of like me, I never studied, and I'm not like the most amazing animator or designer. And I always tend to go back to that being like, oh my God, I'm not good at all. Like, what should I do? And I put so much pressure on myself, and I started working nights, and I never worked on any client work after Cub, like in the nights. I was just working on my own stuff, trying to get better. And I ended up putting so much pressure on myself that, like I ended up in the hospital. And for me, like I ended up there when I was like 23.
Wow.
And, like when they told me that, they were like, okay, so you have an inflammation in your chest and your heart's skipping beats and you need to take it easy. I was just like, oh my God, I'm 23. I can't do this to myself.
Right.
And after that, I decided this is not only, like only the reason or whatever for me deciding to leave Cub. And just like state that this had nothing to do with Cub. It was just me needing a change in my life. And I decided to leave, and I had a couple of months just, I went home to my family, and I was taking care of myself, and I was just doing things that I thought was fun and doing some drawings and stuff like that. And I didn't really do that much client work. And it got better, definitely. And then I can't even remember the question now. Was it?
So let's bring it back to the getting better thing, because you obviously put a ton of pressure on yourself to improve and to get better, and I think unfortunately that's fairly common in this industry.
Oh yeah,
because there is so much talent out there. I mean, no matter how good you get at this, you're gonna look over and see Jorge J.R. Canist, and you'll be like, all right, well, like I thought I was good until I saw that, and now I know I'm not good. And it's a really fun thing to do. I mean, all the students listening, I'm sure you're learning, like as you get deeper into After Effects, it gets more and more fun. And then you start to learn about animation, you start to learn about design, and it's addictive and it's easy to burn out. So I'm curious, Lynn, if you've kind of taken any lessons away from that experience that have given you some strategies to still push yourself and still make yourself uncomfortable so you can get better, but without ending up in the hospital with heart palpitations.
Oh my God. Well, just by doing that, I learned a lot. So I guess I'm not going to say it was a good thing, but it was probably a good thing for me. But, like I always push myself so hard. And then after Cub, when I felt that, I had a calm summer, and I think I did like a month of work or something. And after that, I felt bored. And already before I quit Cub, I emailed with Buck. So, then that whole thing started. But I was very, very clear with them that I didn't want to start until the fall. So I had, at least 4 months to do nothing after this horrible experience.
Right.
So, and then by the end of the summer, when I felt better and everything, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna, push myself even harder now. So I moved to Sydney with my boyfriend, and it was obviously an amazing experience, but we moved to Sydney, and we'd never lived with each other before, and we moved to the other side of the world, and we moved in with each other, that was an experience.
All you have is each other at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, the first couple of weeks were a bit tough, but we made it. We're still together. So that's good. So yeah, I mean, I was back as an intern again, which a lot of people were telling me that I was an idiot for taking on an internship. But I just saw it as an opportunity for me to learn even more, because I was just thinking about this, like I never went to school and I just want to, learn more. I don't really care. So I went back having an internship and, like no money whatsoever, really. And Sydney is more expensive than London, which is crazy. But I honestly did it for the experience. Like just being able to learn from mega talented people is a really nice thing. And I also signed up for 6 months, so I didn't sign up for a lifetime. So that was good.
And did you feel that like you took it a little bit easier when you were there so that you didn't sort of get back into that hospital state again? Or how did you kind of navigate that, your health basically?
Yeah, that was actually the interesting thing, because when I started at Buck, I obviously, felt the pressure. Being surrounded by, like Gareth O'Brien and Lucas,
Lucas
Lucas.
Brooking, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. They know so much, and they're gonna teach me so much. So the first couple of weeks, I really felt the pressure, definitely. But then after that, I also felt, because I started getting anxious, I started being like, okay, I need to, I really need to show them how much I know, or like how much I can do and stuff like that. And I started getting mega anxious again. But then I kind of realized that I didn't want to go back to that again, being super anxious and feeling like shit, and my my whole heart thing was still going on, so I didn't want to make it worse. So I just told myself that I kind of told myself that you're just an intern, Lynn, don't take this like too serious, although it's still Buck, so you wanted to take it serious. So it was really, really hard for me in the beginning, definitely. But it was also really nice because I realized that I still knew a lot of things. So just after 2 months, they were actually telling me that you're not an intern, and I was like, oh, that's nice to hear, because this really helps my heart and my anxiety. So like I started not putting so much pressure on myself, which was really nice. And I only spent time at Buck. I didn't do anything in my spare time, which also helped. Just taking a couple of months off that and enjoying life, basically.
Right on. So you weren't like staying up all night doing your own personal work and stuff?
Oh, no, not at all. I did some, like just some illustration work sometimes, but I didn't do that whole thing of like staying up all night and putting pressure on myself and posting shit to Instagram all the time and stuff like that.
Well, that's good. I'm really glad that you figured that out, because we definitely don't want to lose you at the age of like 26 or something. You're too good, all right? So we'll move away from the health issue, I'm sure. But, I guess, you've talked about living in London and you've talked about Sydney and stuff. And I'm wondering if you feel that you need to live in a big city or near a big studio like that to do great work and to be part of this community still, or how you feel about that, like geographic locations.
I think, I can only, I've always lived in big cities, actually, except from when I was, like growing up. And one of the main reasons I left was because the city was too small for me. And I'm not saying that like, oh God, it's too small for me, but like they don't have anything there. They don't have any design studios or anything. So I kind of had to leave. And then living in Stockholm, which is a great city, but it's not like, that much going on there either when it comes to our industry. It's mainly brick. Like that's kind of the only studio I know that exists in Sweden. Which is, it's just one studio.
They're pretty darn good though, Brick. But yeah.
Oh my God, dude, they are amazing, and the guys are so talented and so much fun to hang out with. And I kind of, I kind of want to work there one day.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I really love the guys. But anyway, so like living in Sydney got me realizing that like how important it is to live where you want to live.
Yes.
And where you are happy. And I'm going to go back to the whole, like living in smaller big cities, but I got hired by Buck, and I decided to turn it down. And I am probably always gonna cry about this, but I decided to turn it down because, well, to be perfectly honest, I said yes in the beginning and then I said no a couple of weeks later, but we're not talking about that. And then mainly because me and my boyfriend, we weren't happy in Sydney, and we just felt that Sydney wasn't the place for us. And we were debating about this for months, if we would stay longer. And we just felt that, we weren't that happy. I was mega happy at Bach, and my boyfriend is also an animator, so he was also working at Bach loads. And we were also saying that, Bach is amazing. We love being here, but you need to be happy more than 8 hours a day. And we just took that, I guess, grown up and mature decision to actually move home again.
That is a mature decision. I'm sure a lot.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sure you're in a pretty small class of people that have said no to a job at Buck. You know what I mean?
I think so too, and I'm probably always going to regret about it. But at the same time, your health and your happiness, you should take that first. That is serious.
Oh yeah, no, you can't get that back.
No, and trust me when it comes to that. I mean, I've been through a lot of weird things when it comes to that. But I moved back to London just a couple months ago, or like 2 months ago. And for me, being in, London is one of the biggest cities for animation. And being here is amazing. You have so much work going on here all the time, and you never really have to be, scared that you're not going to have any work. I'm a freelancer now, so I mean, for me, it's way more important to be in a big city for me personally, because I like being in-house a lot.
Yeah.
And I think the issue is that if you live in a small city, you're mainly just going to do work remotely, but that might be good for some people. So I think it comes down to the person, I think. For me, I like to be in-house, and I also like to be at home sometimes. And if I would live in a small city, I don't think I would be able to be in-house that much.
Yep, I hear that. Yeah, or you'd have to travel to be in-house, which would be a bummer, definitely. I know Joey hates commuting a lot, so do I.
Oh, yes, I have very strong feelings about it. And you bring up another good point, Lynn, which is different parts of your career, you're going to have different requirements for what you want out of a gig, right? And so at this point in your career, you're young, you love working in-house, you're in London, which is this incredible city, but, that may change one day. Maybe it won't, but it could very well change if you decide to, start a family or become a farmer or whatever it is. I ended up moving from Boston to Florida as I got older for those exact reasons. And so, everyone listening, I think one of the things that it's important to say is that Lynn got some of the opportunities she got by moving and moving to big cities where a lot of this work happens. And I don't think you have to do that, but it's really helpful if you can. And then once you've done that, I think at this point in Lynn's career, you could probably live wherever you want and freelance remotely, and people are going to hire you because you've kind of paid your dues. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. And that's kind of what you did in a way. So I would say, because I think that I might move out from London one day. I don't know if I want to have my family in London. It's quite a lot of people here. And also when you're from a small city, I kind of feel like, at the moment I'm super happy here. But when I get a family one day, I kind of want to move back to Sweden. Maybe, I don't know yet. But yeah, as you say, I mean, then I've been in London for years and years, and I have my clients here, and I've been in studios here, and they, hopefully they're going to trust me with working from home. So yeah, I think for me at least, once again, it always comes down to the person, but for me, it feels good to just be in a huge city with a lot of clients and a lot of studios, and just get to know them and work with them for years, and then just move out from here. And they still know me, and they can give me work. So yeah.
If you love big cities and you like working in-house, I think that's a great solution for you. So I know that you do a lot of different, things within motion design. You do character design and animation, and you do motion graphics more traditionally. But like, what are you most excited about, like working on right now? What's your focus right now?
So basically, by being at Bach, I got into a lot of design, and I started using a Cintiq for the first time, which was life-changing. So when I came back, I just bought a Cintiq, and I just mainly focus on illustration work at the moment, which I think is so much fun. But then once, like now I'm at the point where I haven't opened After Effects in, like 3 months or something, and I'm a bit like,
Wow.
ooh, a bit scared of it.
It'll come back
But
to you,
it
I'm
always
sure.
goes up. Yeah, I hope so. But it always goes up and down for me as well, because, sometimes I just spend, because I'm doing both, I get a job, and, like I need to do some illustration work for 2 months, and then I get an animation job and I need to do animation for 2 months, and it's just like always back and forth.
Is there one
Um,
that you love more than the other, or you're happy doing both?
no, I would say I love design and illustration way more, actually. But that's also because I haven't spent as much time with animation as I would like to. Um, and I don't know, it just comes naturally sometimes that if you're in a studio, and like Buck, for example, there was so many talented animators there. And then you kind of, like this is another level of animation. And for me, because I'm not on that level, and they are not on the level when it comes to the design, I kind of ended up on the design and they were doing animation, which kind of make more sense. So yeah, I don't know. Like at the moment, I would say design, but it always changes as well. Like sometimes I think animation is way funnier.
Yeah, well, they're different. I mean, obviously, animation can be so satisfying when you feel like you've done something right, and then you get to watch it. It just feels so perfect. But I guess the same is true of illustration. Like if you just do a great illustration that expresses something, it's just satisfying. So
Oh yeah,
I can see
definitely.
why you'd like both. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much wrapping this up here. If you have any other advice at all for students who might be learning After Effects and just getting into design and motion design, like right now, if you have any thoughts about, what they might or might not do, that would be a great thing to end on, I think, unless Joey has any more
Yeah.
questions.
I think that would be a lovely thing to end on. How to not have a heart attack at 23 is the title of this interview.
Yes, definitely. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's mainly everything I've said about the whole thing of don't rip off people. And if you do, don't show anyone. Just do it because you want to learn more about something. Um, Post your work, even if it's bad in your opinion. I mean, it comes down to art, and everyone is interested in different things. And like some people, sometimes when I look at Instagram and some artists just post like a black line, and it gets like 100,000 likes, and then people are like, "Oh my god, this is so amazing!" And you're like, "What the fuck?" But at the same time, like I'm not interested in that kind of art, but maybe other people are. So I think it's like post whatever you want to post. I mean, who cares? It's just Instagram or Dribble, whatever it is. And if you post things, you exist. So clients can find you, people can find you, and only good things will happen. I promise you that. I kind of built my whole career on posting things online, so I'm a great example for that. Also, don't get a heart attack when you're 23.
There it
Definitely
is.
listen to your body,
Yes.
and like just listen to it. And if you're not feeling well, you need to slow down or talk to someone, or like do something about it. You can't just like drive yourself crazy. And because in the end, I mean, if maybe it turned out well for me now, but what would have happened if I just ended up being like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, I hate this, and like just change my career, which is not a bad thing, but I didn't want to do
You could have
that.
gone back to the PowerPoint presentations.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god,
Less stressful.
exactly, it's so easy. Yeah. Yeah, but also like the last thing is more like, you kind of have to do everything yourself. And even though you're taking Joe's amazing motion school course, you still need to spend a lot of time on your own. And it might be in the night or in the evenings or, you know. But that's how you learn, basically. Just doing something on your own.
Yep. Just keep practicing, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, be part of Pen Animation if you're a lady. I'm sorry, guys, but you're not welcome there, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
And I was actually looking at Pen Animation's like stats in the group because I'm an admin, so I can look at the stats. And apparently, it's 99% girls and 1% boys. Ooh. And I don't know who got in.
Snuck in.
I know.
Maybe they had like a feminine sounding name and it was just a mistake.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe Noel can start Penimation.
Ooh, God. That would make me proud, Joey.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think we should end it on that. Yeah.
Yeah, this was amazing. I think it's just gonna go downhill from there. We should probably.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, thank you,
much.
Lynn. Yeah.
This is great.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on this. Super cool.
Anytime.
I want to thank Lynn again for chatting with us today. She's a huge inspiration to me, and I hope she is for you. And I think this was a really amazing interview on many levels. Lynn has so many damn good things to say about life and the industry. I know that I learned a ton from her. My favorite quote is what her teacher told her, which is something like, quote, "You could be the best damned animator or designer in the world, but if you're hiding out in your mom's basement, nobody's ever gonna find you." I think this is so smart and so true. I mean, like she says in the interview, you're basically making yourself completely invisible unless you post your work and get it out there, right? Nobody will ever know you exist. Nobody will ever hire you. And, you know, that's just a bad move. So the other thing is that she said that I think is really important is definitely pay attention to your health. And don't have a heart attack at the age of 23. I mean, not that she did, but, you know, don't even get anywhere near that ever because of motion graphics. It's just really not that important. It's definitely secondary to living your life well. And finally, my last point is also don't forget about the rhubarb. It really does taste more like stewed applesauce than prunes do. Thanks a lot, everybody.